right now.
Cool.
We are live.
All right, Keith, take the lead, buddy. Take the lead.
Okay. I'm still trying to get us hooked up to Instagram, going live on Instagram as well. But welcome, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great Friday. This is our weekly Q&A series that we're doing with Carbon every week. Lane, Holly, or I, or multiple of us are going to jump on, answer your questions about the app, any questions you guys have about nutrition, training, coaching advice, that type of thing. This is your time to get all those types of questions answered and interact with us. So I'm getting a lot of people on Instagram, which is awesome.
Yay, oh, that's good. Good.
What's up, everybody? Holly and I are going live. Holly's actually not going to join us on the Instagram, but she's with us on YouTube and Facebook.
Damn.
So if you want to see her lovely face, you can head over to Facebook or YouTube.
Awesome.
But, yeah, throw your questions, guys.
I've got a few people saying hello, checking in from New Zealand, 7 a.m. Yeah, it's really challenging because I think we've got to try and find a time that works for, a range of different countries. So, people are kind of waking up in Australia, the early birds, yet everyone's kind of winding down from work in the afternoon. It's just coming up to 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon here in Florida. So it seems to be an okay time to get a good variety of people attending. So
for sure.
Hopefully everybody's liking the app.
Yeah, I hope you guys can hear on Instagram. I hope you guys can hear Holly through my computer speakers. Let me know on Instagram if you guys are hearing her as well. But we have a good question on Instagram. Any plans to add multi-add food function to the app? So the way that we set up the food tracker is you can quickly add foods without needing a multi-add feature. So a lot of people don't know, but if you swipe right on a food item, that automatically adds it to your diary. So you can very quickly just swipe right on the foods if you are eating the same like serving sizes and stuff for the food and you just want to quickly track it again. You actually just need to swipe right on the food item in that list and it'll quickly add it. So we considered adding the multi-add function, but with how quickly you are able to add with this quick add thing, we thought it probably wasn't necessary to also add like a multi-add function where you like do check boxes and stuff.
So Keith, do you want to explain whether that's in the diary view or when you go to search?
So it's when you go to search. So what you would need to do is you need to click on the food you want to add the item to. That'll pull up a list of your recents, and there's tabs for your saved foods as well as your recipes. If you, on any of those food items, you can swipe right and it'll quickly just add it right to that meal. Also, when you're searching for food, if you swipe right on one of the list items, it'll quickly add it as well.
Yeah.
So, man, we're not getting any questions on Facebook and YouTube. You guys need to.
Yeah, come on, pipe up, guys. I know it's early.
Yeah. Right, 7 a.m. in New Zealand. I would not be tuning in that early, but thank you. Thank you for being here. Let's see. Instagram.
What questions have we got on Instagram?
Let's see. Getting a lot of people joining on Instagram. Not a ton of questions yet. Let's see. Can you go back and edit a serving size for recipe builder? Yeah, you can go back and edit the like master recipe that you used and modify all of that. So you could change the serving sizes of each individual food that's in that recipe or the total weight back, and you can totally modify that.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are.
How about
creatures?
This one, Holly. Do you want to answer this one?
What is that? What's the question?
So how is Carbon different than myfitnesspal? Do you want to address that one, Holly?
Yeah, so this comes up quite a lot. Carbon's primary functionality is a nutrition coach. So the same way that Keith or myself or Lane would coach our clients, the Carbon app does that. So you're checking in with the coach every single week. It's taking all of your information from your nutrition and your weigh-ins, and if you've entered in any of your other metrics, so your body composition, and it's going to make adjustments exactly based on how you respond in that given week. It also has a built-in food tracker. So the difference between us and something like a myfitnesspal is it is just a tracker. Yes, it gives you an initial calculation and it provides you with some calories. And if you're paying for the upgraded version, yes, you can manipulate, the amount of carbohydrates and fats that you choose, but it is not a coach. It doesn't have a complicated algorithm. It doesn't learn you. It doesn't respond, to your exact weight change from week to week. So of course, we have all of the different settings. You can do fat loss, maintenance if you're just trying to hold your weight steady. We can do reverse dieting, muscle building. It functions exactly like we would as a coach. So
definitely.
Hopefully that clarifies things. And I think we actually have a lot more features, particularly with regards to the calorie planner, than something like myfitnesspal.
And with myfitnesspal as well, like I believe you, on the free version, you can't add custom macro targets, and have macro targets. Our app isn't free, but the main point of our app, like Holly was saying, is really the coaching feature. So we wanted to include the food tracker more for convenience for people. But if you prefer myfitnesspal for tracking over Carbon, you can certainly track with myfitnesspal and then use Carbon for like the macro targets and the adjustments each week based on how you progress. So hopefully that helps.
I've got a question here from Facebook that I can answer. It's from Hope Wade. So it's her, my apologies. So she says, should I still take a diet break if my calories aren't super low on a fat loss goal? Yes, it's not necessarily related to your caloric intakes. Based on the current literature around diet breaks, there is no one consensus on, the specific way that it should be done. There are still very few studies, and those that do diet breaks tend to be anywhere in the realm from 7 days through to 14 days at your predicted maintenance during a diet phase. So the benefits of the diet break are to help attenuate lean body mass losses during a fat loss phase, and also prevent metabolic slowing, due to the diet itself. So at the moment, if you're somebody that's not necessarily on low calories, there are still benefits to it for those that I have mentioned, in addition to psychological benefits as well. So dieting is really challenging. So if you feel like you need a break, and just pull yourself out of that, severe restriction or just the diet in itself, it can help you stay on track and progress closer to your goals. So the leaner we get, so as you progress through a fat loss phase, you are at a higher risk of losing lean body mass because you no longer have a caloric cushioning or high adipose tissue stores to kind of act as a reserve for energy. So you are when you do get really lean, thinking like a competitor, they are even more important so that you actually retain your lean body mass, as the ultimate goal when you're dieting would be to lose as much fat as you can and retain as much lean muscles. So super important as you get towards the end if you're wanting to maximize that. And then, of course, the psychological benefits of just having a break. So, yeah.
Absolutely. There's another one here that I think I want to address. So we really need to have non-compliance data we can enter, so the coach will be able to give us new macros. We understand it has to be accurate from as well. Most of us aren't pro bodybuilders. So Robert, that is a good idea, but also it's not a good idea in some sense, because our goal as coaches should be to help our clients be able to be consistent with their diet and be able to hit certain targets. And if we were to kind of just make adjustments based on what you ate, even though you didn't eat the recommendations, that's kind of encouraging poor tracking behaviors and kind of enabling not being able to reach your targets. So coach, like, priority to hit, to be able to hit certain targets on a consistent manner, and you to be very comfortable with that, because it's a very important skill that needs to be built up over time. And if we were to just adjust every week, depending on what you actually ate, the system would jump around so much and be like even harder to hit because it's more of a moving target. So I hope that kind of makes sense a little bit in our reasoning around it.
Yeah.
Let's get, I got one on Instagram. Let's see. Measure raw or cooked. So the proteins and how you track them, quickly nutrition information you're going to find in the database is based on raw values. Nutrition information is, if it's not specified in the database, I would assume it's raw, or how the food is packaged. So it doesn't matter if you could measure it raw or cooked. You just have to make sure you're tracking the right item. Now, raw is going to be a little bit more accurate because depending on the cooking method that you use, the food is going to lose a different amount of weight, and that can affect how much you think you're having of it and the nutrition information for what you're tracking. So if you want to be like completely, I would probably, if you also are not too worried about it and you super stressed about being 100% accurate with it, then maybe you can do cooked, but I would make sure you find a cooked item that is cooked under the same conditions that you use. So,
Yeah.
you know, grilled chicken, you can find a grilled chicken instead of a boiled or something like that. You got to make sure it's the correct cooking method.
Yep. I actually have a really good video on my Instagram page that addresses this with a couple of practical examples about like the before weight and the after weight due to the moisture losses that Keith was talking about. So if you're, that question was from Instagram, I think. So if whoever that person was, jump over to my Instagram. It's Holly T Baxter. And there's a video that should I track foods raw or cooked? That's the title of the video. And I think it will really help with the practical examples of some different types of foods. Okay. Someone here on Facebook, I'll put it up. So question from Sophia. Is there a way to save a meal on the app? I eat some of the same meals so it'd be nice to be able to save it and add it as one thing rather than each ingredient. So, Sophia, what I would suggest for you is if you're eating a meal frequently, you just need to create a recipe. It's really easy. When you're on your diary view, you'll see on the bottom right-hand corner before you scroll down, a little floating icon with some lines. And when you tap that button, it's going to show you either recipes, create new recipe, foods, create new food. So what you would do is create a new recipe, give it a name, enter in all of the individual ingredients and the amounts. And then if you know how much or how many servings it makes, you might like to put that in and then save it. So then if you're going to have the same thing multiple days in a row, that's certainly how I like to cook. If I'm doing like big batches, I'll eat the same thing for lunch, over 3 days. It's a very simple, I can quickly search for it and it's going to come up in my recents, or you can search for it in your recipes. So that is how I would go about doing that, Sophia. Yeah, I'm glad you saw it. Great.
Let's see here. Instagram, we got a few. So started this week as a diet break, gained back some weight very quickly. Is this water weight? So most likely, yes. So when you do a diet break, you are going to be going back to maintenance calories for a week. And because of that, your carbs are going to go up and likely you're going to
I've lost Keith.
10 weight. Can you see me again?
I've lost you there for a few seconds. I didn't hear any of your answer. I'm sure you answered it wonderfully.
Okay, so I'm still answering it, but so yeah, with the diet break week, don't stress out about seeing your weight come up just a little bit. I think that's normal. The the more weights you can put into the app during that week, I think the better, because the app is going to look at your weekly averages as well as your trend over time. So if you're just weighing like on your start date and your week end date, it could potentially throw things off with the system just a little bit, just because your weight might be initially high day. So if you can weigh more frequently and add that into the app to give the app more data to work with. Anything you want to add, Holly, about gaining a little bit of weight on a diet break?
No, it's pretty normal. I would have just said, you're increasing your calories. Usually, if you're keeping your ratios the same, there's an increase in carbohydrate. Also, keep in mind, if you're increasing primarily from carbohydrate, the way that that's going to work is you're tending to choose more fibrous foods as well. So not only do you have that initial influx of muscle glycogen, the influx in total body water, but then you also potentially are eating some more fibrous matter. So keep an eye on your daily fiber intakes during that week if you want to minimize the amount of fluctuation from day to day. So that fiber is probably the only other thing I would have mentioned.
Great point, Holly. So somebody else is also asking now, when you check in, do you put your weight for that day or the average for the week? So you always put the weight for that day when you check in, but if you have multiple apps added or multiple weights added to the app, like during that check-in period, that 7-day period, the app will use that information. It's not just going to look at your start and end date. The only time it looks at your start and end date is if you are just starting out on a goal. So if you're just starting out on a goal, we kind of treat that as like, the first week where we want to just look at your start and end weight. But then as you get more check-ins into the app, it's going to look at your weekly averages and trend. Another scenario where it will just look at your beginning and end weight for the week is if you've been non-compliant for quite a while. If you're non-compliant for quite a while, your weight is more likely going to be officially high because you are not following the macro targets. So we kind of treat that also as more like a new starting place after you're coming off a longer period of being non-compliant. So to answer the question, put your weight on that day into the check-in average weight.
Yep. I've got another one here from Facebook. I can answer that. So this one comes from Rosalind. So thank you so much. Is a diet break better than a reverse if you have been dieting for a long time but haven't quite reached your goal? That's a really great question. And for a lot of us, if you're starting if your goal is a long ways away, if you're needing to lose more than like 15% of your body weight, like that's a lot. And you may not be able to achieve all of that in one fat loss. And I think a lot of people assume that that's something that's feasible and that you should be able to lose all the weight, in one go. So if you've gotten to the end or you've been dieting for a very long time and your calories are quite restricted, you might like to try implementing some diet breaks just to see if when you drop back into fat loss, you get another response and that your weight takes a drop. Sometimes just having a week of rest, taking a deload from training, having that diet break and just a bit of a stress relief, you can come back into the gym, you're feeling more motivated, your performance improves because now you've had 7 days potentially back at a period at maintenance with more carbohydrates, better energy, and you may end up getting a little bit more fat loss in those final weeks. But if you have been plateaued for a long time and you've tried implementing a diet break, and you don't have any more wriggle room to add more cardio, like you're already burning the candle at both ends, I would then recommend, switching goals, changing over to a reverse diet, because that's obviously going to be a longer term commitment. Depending on the duration of your diet, we kind of recommend to match the diet time for a reverse, but longer. If you have any goals of building more muscle, that may not happen in 3 months. So, taking a longer time off, working on building the muscle in that off season, restoring your metabolism and getting it back up to a point, where your calories are really high. And that's actually going to set you up for a far more successful fat loss phase next time around to get that second bit of fat that you're trying to lose. So hopefully I answered your question, Rosalind. And there goes Keith. Timberlake has frozen. Are you there, Keith? So Keith is frozen on my end. I don't know if anyone else is having that issue.
My internet's good. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I'm plugged into a wall.
So I'm going to answer this on okay, then it's me. So is it okay to go to maintenance each month, the week before my period? I'm so hungry. Then really be like doing a diet break for like a week. And I think the week before your period, I see a lot of my clients struggle with hunger just because of the change in hormones around that. So I think it's totally fine to do a week at maintenance the week before your period if it helps you stay on track over the long term with your diet. And if you think about it, like if you're spending 3 weeks out of the month in a deficit and then 1 week at maintenance, like it's not going to set you back too far, and it may be helpful more in the long run as well. So you can definitely do that, Rose, and I would probably recommend it if it'll help.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we've got one. So we've got one from Norma on Facebook. And so will the app notify you when you should change your goals? Like if you're not losing on fat loss, will it tell you to reverse and so forth? So we will try to get you to a point where you are losing body fat. So if you have a check-in where you don't make any progress and you mark you were compliant, the coach is going to give you a calorie decrease. So you'd obviously take that, you'd try those macros for another week. Perhaps you still didn't get any weight loss. The coach will probably make another adjustment. But if you get to a certain caloric intake that is below what we would consider like a safe amount of calories to diet on, the coach is going to prompt you to consider changing your goal to a reverse diet. So we won't let you get down to a really low amount of calories because it's just not sustainable. It's not something you can do. The longer you try to stay on really low calories and the more restriction that you have to, or the more cognitive restraint you have to apply, the greater the risk, I guess, for a post-diet rebound insofar as just overeating and feeling like you need to binge because you've been restricting for so long. So we're not going to let you hang around on those low numbers for any period of time. And yes, the coach is going to give you a prompt. But I guess if you're finding that you're kind of tinkering on the lower end of your calories, it may be that you need to make an additional increase to your activity levels as well. We're not going to give you exercise cues. So if you'd been doing a consistent amount of exercise, maybe 90 minutes of high intensity cardio, which is a lot, but let's say that's where you were up to by the end of the diet. It might mean that you, for that last week, add in a little bit more cardio, another 30 minutes, just to see if you can get any more weight loss. So thinking about, I guess, both ends of the equation, you know, nutrition is part of it, but exercise and consistency with your training is also something that you probably should consider before really saying, yep, I'm done. So hopefully that answers your question, Norma.
Yeah. Okay, we got one on Instagram. Is it a bad idea to start a dieting phase when gyms are still closed, very limited access to weights, and worried about losing lean tissue? So I think if you're not able to train how you normally train and the way that your body used to build the muscle, like it's going to be very hard.
Oh, Keith, we lost you. You might want to repeat your answer.
To start dieting when the gyms are still closed, very limited access to weights, and worried about losing lean tissue. I would probably hold off on dieting if your training is subpar, just because you would risk too much lean body mass.
I still
And,
can't hear you, Keith. Oh, I'm sorry,
buddy.
You're so static. I don't know.
So yeah,
Anyone else
yeah.
on Facebook, are you getting any static? Because for me, I can hear about 2 words for every 70 words that Keith says. So maybe if somebody that's listening on Facebook, can you let
Have
us?
you poisoned the technology?
It could be me. I don't know. We're plugged into the wall. So,
I honestly think it's you. Everybody on Instagram saying it's you.
oh, really? That's weird.
Yeah.
Our Wi-Fi's been playing up, I think.
But we're hardwired in, so that doesn't make sense.
But your Instagram.
I'm not on Instagram.
Your computer's hardwired into the internet, or?
Yep. See, it's just hang on. It's down there.
Okay, I believe you.
Yeah, it's wired in. But anyway, do we need to answer another question? Did you get that one out?
Do you have?
Yeah, there's a few.
I got it out on Instagram, but on Facebook.
I got a few just now. So someone, Erin, let's answer this one from Facebook. Okay, Erin says, is 2 months a long enough reverse if I have been dieting for 2 months? I would like to reverse for the summer and enjoy a little bit more freedom, then to be able to jump back into fat loss in September. That's a really good question. Look, I don't know what your long-term goals are, but thinking about the purpose of a reverse diet, it is to help restore your metabolic rate to its fullest potential, ideally with minimal body fat regain. So if you only reversed for 8 weeks, 2 months, you're probably not going to make a significant increase in your calories during that time. So if you're planning on jumping back into fat loss again come September, you're probably going to have a harder time dieting because you're starting from lower calories. If you gave yourself more time, say 3 months or 4 months, usually the minimum amount of time I work with clients on a reverse diet is 20 weeks. Like that's my hard cutoff. At least then you've been able to make a meaningful increase to your calories. And then it will also set you up for a more successful fat loss phase, like I mentioned before. So, I mean, like I said, it depends on your goals. It depends if you've only got a little bit of body fat to lose when September rolls around. Maybe it doesn't matter if you're starting on low calories because you don't have to spend a whole lot of time dieting to get to your goal anyway. So it's hard for me to answer, perfectly because I don't quite have enough information from you, but hopefully you can take something away from that, Erin.
I think also like if you think about it, like two months of dieting is not going to slow your metabolism down that much. So if you were starting from a good place in terms of your metabolic rate before you did the 2 months of dieting, 2 months is probably fine. I mean, it's not gonna meaningfully increase your metabolism a ton, but your metabolism probably didn't adapt too much either over 2 months. So I think if you just want to eat more over the summer and have a little more freedom, I would say go for it and then jump back into fat loss in September and just see how it goes. And if you notice that your calories have to go pretty low and you're struggling, then maybe you should consider doing a longer reverse.
Yep, exactly.
But thank you, Aaron, for the question. Let's see. Instagram, we got more. Is there a fitness app that you offer in collaboration with the diet app looking for fat loss? So I'm assuming you're asking for like a workout app. Carbon doesn't have any kind of workout stuff built in, but Lane and Holly offer a workout builder through BioLane that can provide you with plenty of workout routines. You have, building muscle, those types of things. So there's a ton of workouts that you can use there, and they're pretty helpful. So I would check out the BioLane workout builder.
Thanks, Keith.
Let's see. Some of these questions. So on Instagram, guys, the questions that you put in the question box, if they're too long, they get cut off and I don't really get the whole question. So answer them. Let's see.
I've got one on Facebook here I can bring up.
So
I've got a frozen key, so I'm just not going to talk until he comes back up for me.
Your baby phone's charging in here because I put mine in, okay?
Yep.
Natalie?
I can now. Yeah. I lost you for a bit.
Okay. Should I hit maintain on the Carbon app to implement a diet break on week? So yes, you would want to switch. If you want to do a diet break, you basically just switch the setting over to maintenance for 1 to 2 weeks or however long you want to do the diet break. And then when you're done with that, switch it back to fat loss, and the app will transition seamlessly if you make sure you're using the estimated determined for you based on a few check-ins.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
There's one back up here. It's a long question. It's from David Larissa. I'll bring this one up. So, hi guys, I have a question. After 12 weeks of fat loss phase for a person at 105 kilograms, what he's going to do for the next step. Definitely wouldn't be more of a deficit. So I was wondering if after 12 weeks, should we go to maintenance weight, but for how long, and then go back to the deficit calorie. So David, I think you might have just, or I'm not sure if it's David or Larissa. It looks like it's like a couple here. So I did kind of briefly touch on this before. So if you've been, going through a 12-week fat loss phase and you've lost a good amount of weight, I would really look at what your current caloric intakes are. How sustainable are they at the moment for you? Have you reached a plateau? Or are you just kind of sitting here at maintenance, not really sure what to do just because it's been 12 weeks? I'm going to digress a little bit and then I'll bring this back. But someone said to me recently, like, is 12 weeks the most amount of time you can do a diet for? Is that like the normal time? Not really. Like, you can diet for however long you want to. And if you're adding in diet breaks, you could go for an incredibly long time if that was something that enabled you to kind of stay on track and continue making progress towards your fat loss goal. But right now, if you don't have the intention of continuing a deficit, and that might be because you're feeling like the calories are really getting tough, you're fatigued, your energy's low, you're sleep deprived, you're feeling just generally terrible, I would consider reversing and give yourself a really good amount of time getting your calories back up for probably 20 weeks, as I recommended before, or longer, depending on your goals, and then start your deficit for a second time. So hopefully that answers your question, David Larissa.
Cool. We got one on Instagram that I'll take. So on 400 grams, so they set their weight loss to 400-gram loss. They're only walking. When they go back to the gym, do they reset the goal, or will the app kind of adjust to their activity level? As long as you keep checking into the coach and you're following the recommendations, the app will adjust to everything you're doing. So you don't need to worry about, if you can be patient for like 1 or 2 weeks, you don't have to worry about going in and adjusting the activity level stuff, because the app will learn your body and adjust what your new intake needs to be. If you were to go back and just kind of recalculate based on your activity level, it could give you a number that isn't necessarily where you need to be, and it will still need to adjust anyway. So I would recommend in most cases just being very consistent and with the setting.
Oh, Keith. I feel like this is a technical issue. Wow, Keith's out.
Oh, Holly's back.
It looked like you left. I was like, oh, Keith left us. That's weird.
I don't know. We just keep. I'm gonna have to make sure I'm closer to my route next time or something.
Yeah.
I was answering one. On Instagram. Basically, someone was asking when is the sign to jump from fat loss to maintenance? They're trying to lose 20 pounds or 10% body. If you're trying to lose quite a bit of weight and body fat, you may want to implement diet breaks so that you can extend that dieting period longer. You could either pre-plan them like every 3 to 4 weeks or so if you want to take a diet break week. You can also kind of do more reactive type diet breaks where when you start feeling run down, when you start having more hunger issues, you start really feeling the diet more, then maybe take a reactive type diet break. So you can be proactive or reactive with it. There's a lot of signs that your body's going to let you know if you get too hard. So you might run into like recovery issues with workouts. There's a ton of signs that you'll notice. And so either go with the proactive type approach or reactive. Either is going to be fine.
Okay.
Let's see.
No questions coming through from Facebook right now, but it sounds like there's quite a few on Instagram. If you want to shoot one my way, if you've got anything, Keith, happy to answer.
Yes. Holly, can you expand a little more on the compliance portion of the app? What's compliance considered, and like, can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yep. So we're actually posting a video on this exact topic in probably 30 minutes. So I will go into a lot of detail in the video on Instagram. I think it will probably share it to Facebook as well, so you guys that are tuning in from Facebook can to watch that. But essentially, Carbon Diet Coach uses a range for compliance. So it's 2.5% higher and lower for calories, protein, carbs, and fats. So the most important thing, of course, comes down to energy balance. So making sure that you're actually hitting the correct calories. Now, there's always going to be some errors in not only what the calories are being displayed as, and that's due to the way that labeling laws are written in the USA. There's also going to be inherent errors in how we measure and how we track our amounts consumed. So we're already kind of starting to get a little bit gray with that. So, you know, the more consistent and compliant you can be to your individual macros, the better and more likely you are being true to your calorie intakes. So calories is the number one most important consideration, but the macro ratio, so your carb, fat, and protein targets are also really important as well. And the reason for that is, and I talk about this in the video we're posting today, is due to the thermic effect of food. So protein is a far more thermogenic macronutrient than carbohydrate and fat. So when we digest food, we have to break down and metabolize that. And for protein, around 20 to 30% of the energy contained in that food is actually reused for those digestive processes. So you can imagine if you have two foods that contain exactly the same amount of calories, right, based on their macronutrient profile, but after digestion, if you're consuming the protein, you're actually going to have less available to you post-digestion than you would if you consumed the same 100 calories from either carbohydrates and fats, because more of that energy is available to you afterwards because less is needed for that digestive process for carbohydrate and fat. Now, between those two, fat is basically completely available to us. So it's like literally 100% to maybe like 97% of the energy contained in a fat-containing food is actually available to us post-digestion. So our bodies are very efficient at breaking down fats, but it's a little harder for us to break down that protein. So you can see, like, if you made big shifts in your protein versus your carbohydrates, but still hit your calories, and if you did that all the time, you're probably actually consuming a whole lot more calories if you ate a greater portion of your calories from carbs and fats. I hope that makes sense. The video gives some really clear examples, and I put a bunch of math on the screen as well. I used this example in our webinar last weekend with Team BioLane, so definitely wait for that video. It's about 7 minutes, and it will really help to clarify your understanding.
Yeah, so be sure to check out that post. It'll be up on Instagram within probably an hour or so. So be sure to check back on Insta.
Yep.
And Facebook, I guess. We're posting it everywhere.
Yeah.
Let's see, I got a few questions here. Does carbon do a big drop at first, then adjust from there? Sorry, keeps freezing. Missed a lot. So carbon is trying, when you first start out with the app, it tries to estimate where the best place for you is to start. And if all of the information that you put into the app is accurate, it is going to give you the best like theoretical starting place for your goals. If you're noticing that the calories come out too low or something like that, likely something that was entered is not 100% accurate, and body fat is usually the culprit. So I would make sure you have a good number for your body fat when you are creating a goal. But typically the app should get you started in a place where you're going to progress at the desired rate. But if you do lose a lot of weight, the app will quickly adjust and find where you need to be eating. When you first start like a diet phase, you tend to see a little bit of a larger drop just because of you're losing maybe some extra water weight or something like that. And because your carbs are technically probably going to be reduced because you have to reduce calories, you will likely see maybe a little bit bigger of a drop. And that is typically on the first week. And what we do is we actually evaluate the first week a little bit differently. We allow a larger of a drop without making an adjustment because of this. So we kind of thought about everything with the algorithm. And yeah, so hopefully that answers your question there, Alexis. If you didn't enter your body fat, if you don't enter your body fat, you have to enter a waist value. And what we do with that waist value is we kind of calculate where we think your body fat might be, just to give you a good starting place with the app. So it could be that your waist measurement is not completely accurate. I would make sure you measure it at the right place and kind of make sure you're getting a good waist measurement, and also using the correct units. I've seen a few people measure it in inches, but then they put it in as centimeters, and it completely spit out like this ridiculous body fat number. So just verify the data that you put into the app, and it should give you the best starting place.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, any questions on Facebook and YouTube here?
I just had one that I responded to in text. So I can read it out. I'll just bring it up on the screen. So a lot of questions on reverse dieting today. So Rosalind has asked, so you're saying that unless you can reverse diet for a longer period of time, so if it's not more than 10 weeks, it's better to continue with fat loss. So no, that's not what we're saying. Keith and I are saying any amount of time spent reverse dieting is better than no time spent reverse dieting. But if you have the option to, it would be far better to spend a longer period of time reversing, because you're giving yourself greater potential to restore your metabolic rate, your endogenous metabolic rate. So, and if you had more fat loss to achieve, it means that fat loss phase after is going to be more successful because you're starting from higher calories. So the deficit that's required to lose a certain amount of weight is usually relative to the starting point. So I'll give you a quick example. if I was able to reverse diet and get my calories up to 2,000, right, after 10 weeks, it's not really that high. And then I tried to start a fat loss phase again. And if I wanted to lose maybe, 0.6 of a kilogram, just over a pound a week, that might require a 500 calorie deficit. So that now my calories come down to 1,500 to lose that amount of weight. But if I had have kept reverse dieting and gotten my calories up to 2,500, if I still wanted to lose 0.6 of a kilogram per week, I need a 500 calorie deficit. I'm just using an arbitrary number too, by the way. It's not exact. I'm just giving you an example. Then my first week of dieting, I'm at 2,000 calories. It's a significant difference. So not only does that mean that we are setting ourselves up for a longer period of time where we can diet because we have more calories to take from, it's also very possible that you'll be able to lose more body fat during that reverse diet than, if you did a shorter one. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
Let's see. Let me see if I got some on Instagram here. At the end of the week, when the coach asked if you were compliant with the diet, what ranges would qualify this? Well, it provides the ranges. So when you check into the app, it will say the compliance range of macros. And what you need to do is just make sure that you are within that. And if you are, then you would say yes. So it does provide you with the range that is considered compliant for you and for your goals. So make sure to look at those numbers and just compare what your intake was. Now, if you use the calorie planner to plan out your week, to have high and low days and such, and you follow those recommendations, then you would be considered compliant. So just if you're hitting those targets on a daily basis, you can just say yes to the compliance question. But if you want to go back and look at what you tracked for the week, you would go to the Me tab, and on the Me tab, you can look at your weekly average for things like calories, protein, carbs, and fat, and you can kind of analyze the data there as well. So yeah, that's what I would recommend, just checking out the range that's provided when you check in.
And Keith, just to add to that, so this was obviously a place where we also will be announcing new features when they come. So something that I did want to quickly mention, because it's kind of in this topic around compliance, is the possibility of us displaying your weekly averages within the screen where you check in. So Keith mentioned right now, in order for you to check your weekly average calories, protein, carb, fat, you go to the Me page, and you can kind of scroll all the way across and just keep going back and see your like a rolling average for as long as you've been entering data, which is super cool. But we have had some people say like, oh, I have to go back and check. Can it just show it there for me? So it's something that we have talked about with the members, and we're just trying to work out the most, I guess, optimal way to display that to you without having too many things going on to make it kind of cloud the check-in process.
For sure. And so this person says, but let's say I overate 500 calories over for the week. Well, then you are not considered compliant. So
yeah, I mean, unless your calorie intakes were like 27,000 a day.
Right.
No, 25,000 a day. Then you would have a 500 calorie range for your maintenance calorie range.
Yeah. So if you are trying to lose fat and you overeat the targets by 500, you are likely just now at maintenance. So you are not going to lose body fat in that case. So I would say not compliant. Just work on getting a little bit better at hitting the targets and try planning ahead. Like a lot of it comes down to planning your meals ahead, having an idea of what you need to do to reach those targets. And if looking at the whole day is overwhelming, try to break it down on a meal level and maybe look at, okay, I have 200 grams of protein and I want to eat it in 5 meals. Then, look at the meal level and just aim for 40 grams of protein in each meal and try not to get behind at any point in the day. I think a lot of people get busy throughout the day and then they get behind and then they say F it at night because they have kind of screwed up in the day and didn't eat what they should be to kind of stay on track. So then they just kind of go overboard with that. So just the more you can plan ahead, the more successful you're going to be. So yeah, that's my recommendation.
Yeah, you can get away with a little bit more if you are in a building phase or your maintenance calories are really high. And again, drawing this back to like our maintenance calorie range, like we don't just maintain our body weight on a static number. There is a flux from probably anywhere of 5 to 10%, higher or lower. So if you have a really high maintenance calorie range, or your just calorie targets are quite high, the maintenance calorie range for you is going to be relative to your target. So as you start dieting and your calories come down and are really low, you have less flexibility, because that compliance range and your maintenance calorie range is becoming more narrow and narrow and narrow. So when you're dieting, you have to plan, because it's tough to stick to low macros. So being organized so that you've got foods that are going to help you achieve that target is crucial, because you can't just wing a diet. Like if you get to the end of the day and plug in all the foods that you wanted to eat, hell no, you're not going to be compliant unless you ate salad leaves. Like, be organized, be prepared. And if it means taking some extra time, during your weekend or your free time, just to do some meal preparations, then that's what you've got to do.
Yeah. I mean, Carbon, we try to do as much as we can to make dieting as easy as possible. But at the end of the day, it is kind of a sacrifice to diet, and you need to push yourself. So there is some level of kind of commitment and like planning that needs to go in if you want to be successful with any of this. So let's see.
I haven't got any more on Facebook, so Instagram, come at me.
Instagram. All right. So Instagram. Holly, what's the best way to guess your lean body mass?
To guess your lean body mass?
Yeah, that's what this person wants.
I don't think you can. If you've had a DEXA scan done in the past, or you've had an in-body scan or calipers, like perhaps within the last 2 years, you might want to just check at what that said, and then compare your current physique to that physique. I often just go back and look at my photos. I'll just punch in a date in my phone, May 15 of 2016. See what pictures come up and have a look, at your body composition from now to then, and just compare. But unless you've been, I guess, in the medical field or in the nutrition field where you've had training on how to estimate somebody's body composition or even body weight, that's a really, really tough one to do. So I would recommend just going out and getting a scan if that's something that is accessible to you, because even if the DEXA scan is not, if the absolute values it tells you about your body fat percentage are inaccurate, at least if you're using that same machine over time to kind of measure your progress, the changes that you are going to see are going to be relative to, the starting point. So yeah, estimating is really tough, to be honest. Like, you can't really, it's hard.
Right. And like, is the end goal to change that number, or is the end goal to like look a certain way? I think a lot of people put too much stock in numbers of, oh, this is my body fat percentage, this is how much lean body mass I have. Like, if your goal is to change the way you look, those numbers are helpful in terms of gauging kind of progress towards that goal. But I think ultimately your goal is probably more visual based. So don't get too hung up on the numbers of it, and just use them more for like a guiding way.
Yeah, so many people get caught up on the scale weight, and especially when you're going through like a building phase or a reverse diet, it is not an objective way to measure progress. It's just a number. It doesn't tell you whether the weight on the scales is being added by lean body mass, and it doesn't tell you how much of the weight on the scale is fat mass. So yeah, using a scale, like I have a bit of a love-hate relationship, because it is a really good way for a coach to help make adjustments for you. But at the end of the day, like it's not the only tool, and there are so many other things that you can do instead of just like looking at your body composition. How are your clothes are fitting? Maybe using measuring tapes. Like, there are other ways that you can get around progress than just having to use a scale. But for Carbon, it's very important to make sure that you have plenty of, I guess, weight scale measurements, because it'll help make sure that your weekly average is true, or as true as possible, to your actual body weight.
Yeah. So, and they also brought up, I think they asked this because of the protein recommendation in Carbon. So Carbon sets the protein target based on the amount of lean body mass you're estimated to have. So the more protein decided going to be a little bit more of a accurate number to where you need to be, but prefer to have more protein, you can easily change that in the app. In the diet preference setting, we offer sliders where you can slide the protein in a certain range. So if the app doesn't give you the amount of protein that you think you need right off the bat, you can easily just adjust that. But usually it sets people up on a pretty good path.
So I think we've got about 5 minutes left, guys. So we did start a little early today. So if you have any questions, now is the time to ask. So Keith and I can help you with that.
Yeah.
There's one that's just come through on Facebook. I'll bring that up. So if one signs up for your fat loss program, can you change the activity in Carbon app? How does the app know if your activity level increases or decreases? So thank you for the question, Paj. So when you go through the initial sign-up phase with Carbon, you're asked about a whole bunch of different metrics. So you'll enter in things like your age, your body weight, your body fat percentage if you know it. It'll ask you about your occupational activity levels. So if you're like me, you'd be entering sedentary because I just sit here all day and bash away on my keyboard. So you have to enter something in about your occupation. And then it'll ask you about your training or your exercise activity. So if it was me, like I'm very active, I go into the gym and I'm working hard for a few hours. So I would select like highly active. And then also prompts you for other things about your metabolic rate and then how much rate or your rate of weight loss or weight gain, whatever your goal. Now, once you've initially been given your macronutrient targets, we're expecting you to be consistent with your training and your daily activity. And that is one of the biggest reasons why people end up having weight loss plateaus, or they see their weight jumping all over the place, because their activity is really inconsistent from week to week. So if I can give you any recommendations about this, make sure that whatever your resistance training program is scheduled like and your cardio, that you are trying to match it back to back. Now, to answer the second part of your question is, how does the app know if your levels are increasing or decreasing? Well, if you're increasing your activity levels, you're going to likely lose more body weight if you're in a fat loss phase, and the coach is going to register that fat loss. And if it exceeds your set weekly rate of weight loss, it's going to jack your calories back up if you needed to, if you exceeded the amount of weight that you were meant to be losing. So it will know your activity levels based on your weight progress. Hopefully that answers. Did you have anything to add, Keith?
I think it just points to the importance of consistency all around. Like with fitness, consistency is one of the most important variables you can have. So like with your diet, you want to be as consistent as possible. With your workouts, you want to be consistent. With your activity, you want to be consistent. If these things are fluctuating a ton on a day-to-day basis, it's going to be a lot harder for you to make progress. And we want to encourage consistency in every way possible. So the app is set up in a way that it encourages you to be consistent. And if you are consistent, it rewards you, and it will give you good like targets to follow. So just aim for consistency. That should be the #1 goal for most people.
Yeah, and again, just to add with features, so one of the things that we've discussed with our members is adding over time more coaching like cues. So thinking about what we do as coaches, when my clients are checking with me in person, if I see that their training has drastically changed from week to week, and I can see that in their report, the first thing I say is like, hey, your weight didn't change this week because you did 2 hours less like resistance training. So over time, now that we've got the app out, our intention is to really hone in on the features to make this really feel like, you're getting feedback from your coach. So as another random example, I used this last week. Let's say we see that you're
30 seconds, Kelly.
let's say your fiber intakes are jumping all over the place. Like we would say, hey, get back on track, be more consistent. So anyway, I think that's about all we have time for today. Thanks for the 30-second warning.
You're welcome. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Every week we do these, so be sure to tune in next Friday for another live, and we appreciate everybody.
Thanks for joining us.
You just missed me, guys.
Bye.